The last time I confessed my feelings to Ethan Carter, I made myself unbearably awkward. There were many people sitting in the room, yet the silence was so complete that it felt as though you could hear a pin drop. No one spoke. Several minutes passed before Lily Shen, who was sitting beside him, finally stood up to ease the situation. "Come on, Ethan, acting like this, aren't you making Naomi feel extremely uncomfortable? She's still just a child." Someone sitting in the corner let out a cold laugh. "A child? She's already 21? Laughter rose from different directions and gradually spread throughout the entire room. I stood stubbornly where I was, refusing to leave in embarrassment, but my vision slowly blurred as I looked into Ethan's eyes. "Naomi, how much more unpleasant do you want me to be?" Ethan brushed off the ash from his cigarette and stood up. "I've already rejected you clearly ever since you were 16. I couldn't stop my voice from choking, but back then, when I fell in love too early, you were obviously furious. That was because you're the adopted daughter of the Carter family. If you took even one wrong step, the one who would lose face would be the Carter family. And what about the kiss on your 18th birthday?" Disgust flickered briefly in Ethan's eyes. "Naomi, that night you were drunk and caused such chaos that no one had any peace. I just wanted to end that farce as quickly as possible." I couldn't help laughing, but the more I laughed, the more my tears fell. "Ethan, haven't you had 4 girlfriends already? Yet every time I cried and made a scene, you broke up with them. Do you dare say that you truly never liked me even a little? That's because I haven't met a woman I truly love yet." Ethan reached out and pulled Lily into his arms. "Listen carefully, I'll only say this once. I like Lily. I will marry her. The little tricks you used in the past won't work anymore this time." Lily's face was filled with shy joy as she looked at Ethan with affectionate eyes. Ethan lowered his head without hesitation and kissed her. Lily wrapped her arms around his neck, stood on her tiptoes, and kissed him back. They kissed passionately, intensely, completely oblivious to everyone around them. But in that moment, what resurfaced in my mind was the kiss when I was 18, just as intense, just as endlessly long. It trapped me in a dream that lasted 4 years, leaving me naively believing that he actually liked me. Ethan moved out of the Carter family's ancestral home and went to live with Lily. On the day he moved out, I was busy working on my graduation thesis at school. Choosing that day was probably meant to avoid me making a scene again. But this time, I wasn't like before. I didn't immediately run to Ethan to cry. There was only a slight disturbance in my heart, and then I shook my head, forcing all those thoughts out of my mind. That evening, I held a graduation farewell party with a few close friends. Halfway through, when I went to the restroom, I ran into Lily. "Naomi, Ethan is here too. Do you want to go see him?" I shook my head. "I already made plans with my friends. I'm not going over." Lily's eyes suddenly reddened. "Naomi, my background isn't good. Ethan's parents already don't like me. Could you please stop speaking badly about me in front of them?" I stared at her in shock. "Lily, I've never mentioned you in front of any elders." Lily gave a bitter smile. "I know you've liked Ethan for a long time. Right now, you still can't accept him being with me. I understand." "Understand what?" I snapped. "Lily, we're both women. As people, shouldn't we be a little kinder?" I've always been straightforward, just like my mother, never good at scheming or calculating. Hearing this, my anger flared instantly. "Lily, don't talk nonsense and smear me." Before I could finish, she suddenly went limp and knelt down in front of me. "Naomi, please, I'm begging you." Startled, I hurried forward, about to pull her up, but before I could even touch her, she had already collapsed onto the floor. "Naomi, what do you think you're doing?" Ethan Carter's furious voice rang out. Along with that came a powerful shove. I was pushed hard, my knees slamming into the corner of the wall, the pain piercing straight through my heart. "Ethan, don't misunderstand. Naomi didn't do it on purpose," Lily said. "You're still defending her?" Ethan replied coldly. "From childhood until now, I've seen enough of her tricks." Ethan bent down and lifted Lily into his arms, then looked at me with icy detachment, his eyes filled with rage. "Naomi, apologize." "Ethan, stop it. Don't make her apologize," Lily said softly. Lily lay obediently in his arms, crying in small, weak sobs, all pitiful and fragile. My knee was bleeding, the blood running down my calf and pooling around my ankle. The two vivid streaks of red were painfully conspicuous, yet Ethan seemed not to see them at all. The way he looked at me was as if I were an unforgivable sinner. I suddenly laughed at myself, not wanting to argue another word. "I'm sorry." Ethan paused for a brief moment of surprise, but then his gaze grew even colder. "That's not enough." I straightened up and bowed deeply. "Was this enough now?" Lily looked at me, the corner of her lips lifting slightly, but in the next second she was already sobbing again as she looked up at Ethan, gently persuading him, "Forget it, Ethan. Let's go. How could I possibly endure this?" Ethan immediately softened. "No, Naomi, I've told you already, Lily is different from everyone else. Even if you bully her, it won't make me break up with her. It will only make me care for her more and hate you even more." He carried Lily and turned to leave. I stood there alone, dazed, for a long, long time. The wound on my knee hurt down to the bone, yet my heart felt hollow and strangely light. In that very moment, I understood. All that so-called obsession and infatuation had completely dissipated. I dissolved into nothingness, leaving nothing behind. That night, Lily posted 3 times in a row on social media. People with ulterior motives in our circle took screenshots and sent them to me, especially highlighting Ethan's replies, as if deliberately trying to draw attention. I noticed it. I knew in my heart that they were all hoping to see me become a laughingstock. In the past, whenever I saw things like this, I couldn't control myself and would run to Ethan crying. Even if he was annoyed, he would always give in the end. That unknowingly gave me the illusion that he cared about me, making me grow more stubborn the more defeated I became. But this time, I didn't care anymore. Instead, I dialed a phone number I had saved 7 days ago. "Aunt Grace Zhao, it's Naomi. What you mentioned that day, I've thought it through. When I was 7 years old, my parents died in an accident. Uncle Carter had been close friends with my father, so he decided to take me in and raise me. As for Aunt Grace, she had been my mother's closest friend when they were young. Later on, she ran away with her lover and lost contact. By the time she drifted through half her life and finally settled down in Hong Kong, my parents were already gone. Aunt Grace wanted me to go to Hong Kong to live with her. She also wanted to fulfill a promise she had made to my mother when they were young. She wanted me to marry into the Quinn family in Hong Kong and become her daughter-in-law. 7 days ago, I hadn't agreed, but I was afraid of disappointing her, so I only said I would think about it. But tonight, I suddenly let go of all the stubbornness I had clung to for so long. A blind love like that was truly foolish and laughable, and I didn't want to become a joke in this circle anymore. Half a year ago, Ethan had already arranged for me to continue my studies in Hong Kong. Back then, I didn't want to go and cried a great deal, but he refused to compromise. Now, I suddenly felt that this was a good opportunity. Perhaps somewhere in the unseen, this was fate's arrangement. On the other end of the line, Aunt Grace laughed happily. "Naomi, your Uncle Andrew Quinn is just waiting for you to nod your head. He'll fly to Beijing to propose to you." I gripped my phone tightly, my face suddenly burning hot, yet the laughter echoing around me made me feel dazed, unable to describe the feeling. The 3 people I had lived with for 15 years. Loving him for 7 years, turns out, to let go completely, only took 7 days. On the day Ethan Carter got engaged to Lily Shen, he deliberately chose the same day I was leaving for Hong Kong. Because of that, there weren't many people who came to see me off. After I got off the plane, I turned on my phone and was bombarded with messages. More than half of them were related to Ethan and Lily's engagement. I only gave a faint smile, deleted everything, and blocked those contacts. Before arriving in Hong Kong, I had already met Andrew Quinn. I didn't want to cause any more trouble, nor did I want to make a spectacle of things. Andrew respected my wishes. He proposed, and we quietly got engaged just like that, without any fanfare. The only changes were that my account now had an additional 1 billion in betrothal money, and there was a simple ring on the middle finger of my hand. As I was about to get into the Quinn family's car that had come to pick me up, my phone suddenly rang. It was Ethan's cousin, Daniel Carter. "Naomi, my cousin's engagement ceremony is about to start. Where are you?" "I've just arrived in Hong Kong." "Then hurry back. If you leave now, you'll still make it." "Go back for what?" I asked calmly. Daniel paused in surprise. Naomi, are you so hurt that you've gone crazy? If you don't come back and cry to him, he'll really belong to someone else. Why would I go back and cry? I replied. Isn't this supposed to be his happy day? Naomi, Daniel's voice suddenly rose. Are you out of your mind? I was about to hang up when the voice on the other end suddenly changed. It was Lily Shen. Naomi, you're not coming to Ethan's in my engagement ceremony? No matter what, Ethan has always treated you like a younger sister. I'm your sister-in-law now. I really want to receive your blessing. I looked toward Andrew Quinn, who was standing not far away. He stood beside the car, tall and steady, his gaze gentle. My heart suddenly calmed down. All right then, I wish you both 100 years of happiness, and that you stay together forever. At that moment, Ethan Carter was standing in the garden with several friends, smoking. From time to time, he glanced in the direction of Daniel and the others. He knew they were probably reporting things to Naomi again, just like countless times before. Whenever a woman appeared by his side, those people would immediately inform Naomi, and then Naomi would come to him crying and making a scene. He hated that kind of woman the most, found it annoying. So he would casually kick those women aside. This time, he assumed it would be no different. That was why he deliberately chose the day Naomi left for Hong Kong. He just hadn't expected that the auspicious time for the engagement ceremony would fall at 6 in the evening. Even Ethan felt a headache coming on. After all, if Naomi found out and immediately booked a flight back, she would arrive just in time for the engagement. What if Naomi comes back and causes trouble? Someone asked. Right. You're marrying someone else. I bet she'll go crazy. But she's been pretty quiet lately, another person said. You and Lily are already that close, yet she hasn't made a single move. Before, she would have cried enough to flood Mount Jin. Ethan's cigarette had burned down to a long trail of ash, but he had forgotten to flick it off. All he could think about were those last two sentences. Naomi has been very quiet lately, quiet to an unusual degree. Based on his understanding of her, she wasn't that kind of person. From childhood to now, he had rejected her countless times, yet she had always grown more determined with every failure, never once showing any intention of giving up. Now that she was a bit older, she was indeed calmer than when she was young. And then, all of a sudden, something occurred to Ethan. He let out a soft chuckle and stubbed out the cigarette. Just wait and see. She's not the type to quietly accept her fate. Daniel looked at him. You mean Naomi will come back and make a scene? Ethan didn't answer, but in his heart he was absolutely certain. That little girl who had been immersed in blind love since childhood, while still in the prime of her youth, had devoured countless romance novels. To the point of forgetting everything else, those ridiculous tricks had been played out on him over and over again. He knew it perfectly well. The silence over the past few days was nothing more than a tactical retreat before advancing again. He was willing to bet that, at the latest, when the engagement ceremony began, Naomi would appear. Make sure you tell security to keep a close watch, he said. Don't let her come in and cause trouble. As soon as he finished speaking, he saw Daniel Carter lifting her skirt and running toward them in a hurry. Brother, it's Naomi. Naomi is here. Her car is parked right outside the gate. Ethan Carter suddenly felt a surge of delight inside, but it was immediately replaced by a frown. How troublesome. She really didn't know when to give up. Brother, what should we do now? If she causes a scene, our family will lose face. Ethan's expression turned cold as he pivoted and strode outside. I'll go see what kind of act she's putting on. Everyone followed him. Ethan had just walked out of the garden when Lily Shen tugged gently at his sleeve. She was wearing a long silk dress that looked exquisitely elegant, her hair intricately braided, her makeup light and refined. The engagement ceremony was scheduled for 6 in the evening. There were still a few hours to go. Lily was anxious inside, yet her face revealed nothing. Why did you come out here? She asked softly. Ethan stopped. His gaze lingered on Lily's face. She was beautiful. The kind of beauty that easily stirred a man's protective instincts, completely different from Naomi's defiant edge. Because of her background, Lily's personality was somewhat timid. She always spoke gently, her voice soft and careful. When he first met her, he had been dealing with the headaches Naomi caused by making scenes. He had been easily drawn in by Lily's gentleness and composure. More than that, unlike his previous girlfriends who always clung to him proactively, his relationship with Lily had begun in a classic hero saves the damsel situation. Men always have that so-called hero complex, so the feelings he developed for Lily were fundamentally different from his past relationships, which had been nothing more than casual flings. "I heard Naomi has come back," Lily said, but before she could finish, her eyes were already red. "I'm a little worried." She bit her lip and lowered her head. "Ethan, could it be that we won't be able to complete the engagement ceremony today?" "What are you thinking?" Ethan raised his hand, resting it on her shoulder and gently patting it. "Don't worry, I'll go take care of it right away." But Lily grabbed his sleeve instead. "Ethan, I'm scared. I'm scared you'll go with her." Tears streamed continuously from Lily's eyes. She stood there, fragile and weak, as if she might shatter at any moment. "Sister Lily, why would you think that?" Daniel said, looking at her with unconcealed satisfaction in her eyes. "My brother doesn't like Naomi at all. She's overbearing and stubborn. Every time something happens, she cries and makes a scene. My brother is sick to death of her. How could he possibly go with her?" In truth, Daniel really did dislike Naomi. Uncle and Aunt Carter had always been very fond of her, always putting Naomi above everyone else. Whether in words or actions, it was implied that Naomi was the Carter family's adopted daughter, and for the sake of the family's reputation, they had to treat her even better. Because of that, Daniel had always hated Naomi. Over the years, what she enjoyed most was seeing Naomi humiliated and embarrassed. Now that Naomi had been sent to Hong Kong to study, hardly anyone had come to see her off. Even half a month earlier, all of Naomi's luggage had already been packed up and shipped to Hong Kong, as if they were afraid she would cling on and refuse to leave. And now, Daniel couldn't describe the joy she felt inside. No matter who became her sister-in-law, she would support it, as long as that person wasn't Naomi. Ethan suddenly turned to look at Daniel. "Didn't you used to have a pretty good relationship with Naomi? How could I ever have a good relationship with her?" Daniel scoffed. "I hate her to death." At this point, with everything already settled, Daniel didn't bother pretending anymore. Back then, she had deliberately approached Naomi, only because she wanted to win Naomi's trust, make her listen and obey, and use her to stir up trouble, doing things that would make others despise her. Now there was no need to pretend anymore. She truly felt relaxed and satisfied. So Daniel Carter didn't notice the subtle change in Ethan Carter's expression and continued speaking. "Brother, how about this? Why don't you stay here with sister-in-law, and I'll go deal with Naomi myself. Don't worry, I'll definitely make her lose face badly." "How exactly are you planning to make her lose face?" "Have security throw her out. People are holding an engagement ceremony, and she comes to cause trouble. If this gets out, her parents might have to dig their way out of their graves to stop it." Suddenly, Ethan raised his hand. The sharp sound of a slap echoed, leaving everyone stunned, especially Lily Shen. She frowned, looking into Ethan's eyes as they gradually darkened. "Brother, why did you hit me?" Daniel immediately covered her face and burst into tears, full of grievance. "Naomi is, after all, your nominal younger sister. I even call her sister, too." Ethan's face turned extremely unpleasant. "She has been the Carter family's adopted daughter for over a decade. Daniel, humiliating her, does that bring any glory to the Carter family?" "Why are you standing up for her?" Daniel cried even harder. "You clearly hate her, don't you? If you didn't hate her, how would we ever dare say such things?" Ethan stood there in silence for a long time, saying nothing. Did he really hate Naomi as much as they said? Clearly, when Naomi first came to the Carter family, the two of them had been the closest. When Naomi fell, he was the one who coaxed her not to cry and carried her home on his back. When she was bullied at school, he immediately showed up to help her demand justice. Even the first time she got her period, he was the one who bought sanitary pads for her. Naomi had depended on him since she was little. As she grew older, her possessiveness toward him became increasingly intense. He had originally liked her that way, but when Naomi kept clinging to him, when had everything begun to change? A sudden sense of confusion rose in Ethan's heart, but Lily's sobbing pulled him back to reality. That's right, Naomi was the one who changed first. As she grew up under the Carter family's indulgence, her personality became overly headstrong. She was willful and domineering, refusing to allow him to have contact with anyone of the opposite sex. And every time she became jealous, she would cry and make a scene. That was why he grew more and more irritated, more and more distant from her. He had even ignored her pleading and tears, and resolutely sent her to Hong Kong to study alone. No, he had only done that to make Naomi grow up, to become more sensible. When she learned to behave, he would bring her back. After all those years of affection between them, how could he truly be so heartless as to leave her alone in a foreign city? But now it seemed she still hadn't learned her lesson. She dared, on such an important, joyful day, to remain so stubborn and reckless. She truly was someone capable of plunging the Carter family into chaos the moment she appeared. Ethan reached out and pulled Lily into his arms. "Go wash your face, then have the makeup artist redo your makeup. I'll finish dealing with Naomi and then come find you. The engagement ceremony will start on time. Don't worry." He wiped the tears from Lily's face, then turned and left. Lily stood where she was, watching his figure disappear into the distance. Yet for some reason, an indescribable unease lingered in her heart. Daniel's question earlier had indeed been very accurate. Everyone knew, no one knew how much he hated Naomi. But just because of a few words from Daniel, he had slapped her. Did he really hate Naomi? Or was it that, deep in his heart, Naomi was still someone special? When Ethan Carter reached the main gate, he didn't see me. But my pink Mini was still parked there quietly. The only difference was that the person standing beside the car was my best friend Anna. Ethan's steps suddenly slowed. It felt as though something tugged lightly at his heart, leaving a faint heaviness behind. Only then did he remember that I had given this car to Anna before leaving Beijing. When Anna saw him, she walked straight over. Ethan noticed that she was holding an envelope in her hand. He asked nothing, and Anna's face remained expressionless as she spoke bluntly. "Naomi asked me to deliver this congratulatory envelope to you and Lily." Ethan didn't reach out to take it. Anna frowned slightly. "There's one more thing," she continued. "Naomi left in too much of a hurry and didn't get a chance to see you. She called you several times, but you didn't answer, so she hasn't been able to get it back yet. Do you remember the sapphire brooch she gave you for your birthday? The one that was a keepsake her mother gave her father?" Anna let out a faint, mocking laugh. "Naomi said that brooch was meant for her future husband. Now that it's with you, it's no longer appropriate. Mr. Carter, could you return the brooch to me? I'll take it to Naomi when I go to Hong Kong." Ethan suddenly lowered his gaze. His eyes stopped on the sapphire brooch, gleaming on his chest. That morning when he had gotten dressed, he didn't know why he had chosen to wear the sapphire brooch. In truth, it didn't really match his formal attire, yet he hadn't taken it off. But now, as he looked at it again, all he felt was how glaring it was. For her future husband. Ethan didn't understand why, but just the thought of Naomi getting married, of having a man who would share her bed, made an inexplicable discomfort surge up inside him. She had liked him for so long. How could she marry another man so easily? Now she didn't come herself, but instead sent Anna to retrieve the brooch. She really was clever. In the end, this single action of hers had successfully thrown his mind into turmoil. "Go back and tell Naomi," Ethan said coldly. "Once a gift has been given, there's no reason to ask for it back. Of course, if she insists, then let her come and tell me herself." With that, Ethan turned to leave. Anna hurriedly called after him, "Mr. Carter, wait a moment." Then she said firmly, "I'll let Naomi speak to you herself right now." This was ridiculous. Naomi was about to get married. This brooch carried special meaning. How could it be left with another man? Naomi had told her more than once that she must bring this brooch with her when attending Naomi's wedding, so that on the wedding day, she could personally pin it onto her husband's chest. Over the years, Anna had long disliked Ethan. But Naomi had been far too stubborn, like a fool, letting herself be toyed with for so many years, only to be kicked away so painfully in the end. Every time Anna thought about it, she felt so angry she wanted to slap Ethan. Thankfully, Naomi had finally woken up. Not only that, she had found such a good man. From the bottom of her heart, Anna was genuinely happy for her and sincerely congratulated her on this new beginning. She was determined not to fail this task. When I received Anna's call, the car was already close to the Quinn family's residence. "What's wrong?" I asked. "Naomi," Anna said, "I did what you asked. I went to Ethan to get the brooch back, but he refused to give it to me. He said if you want it, you should go see him yourself." I subconsciously glanced at Andrew Quinn beside me and felt a little embarrassed. After all, he and I were still not that familiar. Although he appeared polite and refined, the presence around him was still powerful, impossible to ignore. Just a moment ago in the car, he had taken a work call, switching effortlessly between English, French, and Cantonese, issuing commands decisively and efficiently. The natural aura of someone in a leadership position made me feel immature and clumsy by comparison. In truth, I was never a gentle person. Yet in front of Andrew Quinn, I seemed to become more restrained and ladylike without realizing it. Before I could respond to Anna, the voice on the other end of the line suddenly changed. It was Ethan Carter. "Naomi, are you trying to get the brooch back? Or are you planning to cause trouble?" I froze for a moment, then laughed in anger. "If you're worried I'll disrupt your engagement ceremony with Lily, then I suggest you don't waste your energy. If you want me to retrieve the brooch, then I'll take it back the same way I gave it to you. Something that precious shouldn't be collected by someone else on my behalf." I took a deep breath, forcing myself to stay calm. "Anna is my best friend. If she takes it from you, that's fine. I'll take full responsibility for any consequences." Ethan laughed. "Naomi, how many times do I have to make this clear? Take it back the same way you gave it to me." The call was abruptly cut off. I was both furious and humiliated, my face burning hot. How had that brooch been given? It was on my 18th birthday. We had both been drunk, on the 3rd floor of the Carter family's ancestral home, in my bedroom. He had pinned me against the door and kissed me deeply, the kiss lasting so long I could barely stand. He was clearly aroused as well, yet in the end he still restrained himself and stopped. When he was about to leave, I called him back and pressed the brooch into his hand. I had told him the meaning of the brooch, that it was a token of betrothal. He said nothing, but he accepted it. And because of that, I believed he had tacitly agreed and accepted my feelings. For all these years, my life had been like a terrible dream. Now that I had finally woken up, I only wanted to cut cleanly away from the past. I had thought Ethan would return the brooch as casually as throwing away trash, but I never expected him to say something like that. Only at this moment did I slowly realize that the foolishness of youth must eventually be paid for one day. If this brooch did not carry such special meaning, I would never have insisted on getting it back. But now that I was about to get married, the fact that it was still with Ethan was unfair to Andrew. Did something happen? Andrew's voice suddenly rang out beside me. Instinctively, I looked up, my gaze meeting his deep, steady eyes. The emotions in my chest turned into an indescribable discomfort. I didn't want to hide anything, yet because of the distance and unfamiliarity between us at this moment, I couldn't bring myself to say it out loud. "Nothing," I finally said, shaking my head. In my heart, I was already making plans. If necessary, I would ask Uncle Carter for help. With a plan in place, my mood gradually relaxed. "It's really nothing," I said again, forcing a light smile at Andrew. "Just a small matter involving Uncle Carter's family. I can handle it myself." Andrew didn't press further. He simply nodded. "If anything becomes difficult, Naomi, you can always come to me. After all, you're my fiancé now." He said it as naturally as the way Aunt Grace Joe always addressed me. Even though it wasn't the first time I had heard it, my ears still warmed slightly, especially when he said the 3 words "my fiancé." Even my neck felt hot. "Yes," I replied softly. "We're already engaged. In just half a month, I'll be marrying you." Bitterness and sourness intertwined in my heart, yet faintly, there was also a trace of anticipation and joy. I didn't dare look him in the eye, only stealing a brief glance before nodding gently. Andrew said nothing more. The car arrived at the Quinn family's residence. The door opened, and he stepped out first, then turned back and extended his hand to help me out of the car. That was when I saw the engagement ring. On his middle finger, ever since the day he put that ring on, he seemed to have never taken it off. Andrew Quinn helped me out of the car. I stepped down, but he didn't let go. Instead, he very naturally held my hand, At first I felt a little uncomfortable, but his palm was warm and dry, his grip firm and steady around my fingers. My heart suddenly settled, as if this was how things were meant to be. From a distance, Aunt Grace Jo saw us walking toward her hand in hand. A satisfied smile appeared on her face. Before we could even get close, she hurried over to greet us and pulled me into a tight embrace, tears streaming down her face. "Naomi, you look just like your mother did when she was young." My own tears welled up immediately. The familiar scent on Aunt Grace was comforting, like the faint fragrance preserved in my memories of my mother. Andrew stood to the side, shook his head helplessly, and handed us some tissues. "Aunt Grace, Naomi, if you keep crying like this, outsiders will think Dad and I bullied you both." Aunt Grace had married Andrew's father when she was 40. She never had children of her own, but she always treated children without blood ties as if they were her own. Andrew had always respected her deeply. I had known all this for a long time, which was why I had always wondered why Andrew had agreed to this marriage, when clearly none of it had anything to do with him. But Aunt Grace had only told me not to worry, saying that I would understand the reason one day, so I didn't ask any further. Hearing that, Aunt Grace smiled and wiped my tears, then held my hand tightly. "Naomi, come home with me." I instinctively looked toward Andrew. He was looking at me as well. Behind him were lush green trees, cool and vibrant, and when I met his gaze, his eyes were full of gentleness accompanied by a faint smile. He extended his hand to me too. "Naomi, let's go home." There were still 20 minutes left until 6 o'clock. By this time, Lily Shen had finished all her makeup and styling, yet Ethan Carter still hadn't come out of the upstairs lounge. After hesitating for a while, Lily finally walked toward the door. The lounge wasn't locked, and voices drifted out. She quietly moved closer. "Naomi definitely won't come back, right? If she wanted to come, she would have done so long ago. Even if she came back by rocket now, it'd be too late." "Ethan, actually, I've wanted to ask you this for a long time. Do you really not have even a bit of feeling for Naomi? You two grew up together. She's pretty and innocent, and she's always devoted all her feelings to you." Lily instinctively held her breath. Inside, it was quiet for a long time before Ethan's voice finally sounded, slow and indifferent. "No feelings. Would I have feelings for a kid?" He let out a light laugh. "I'm 5 years older than Naomi. When she first came to the Carter family, she had just started elementary school." Even so, he didn't know why his mind suddenly drifted to the night of her 18th birthday. He must have been possessed by some kind of madness to have been tempted by her to the point of losing his head and kissing her, and even accepting that brooch from her. "But Naomi is really beautiful now," someone said. "That's true. Several of my friends like her. Do you remember the horse race last year?" "How could I forget? She wore that Red Riding outfit and won the championship. I still remember it clearly, her standing on the podium, taking off her helmet, smiling so brightly." Of course, Ethan remembered too. He remembered how Naomi had been bursting with joy that day, tugging at him non-stop, chattering excitedly as she showed off her trophy and her horse. She had gone on and on about how handsome the guest who presented the award was, but in her heart, she had only been thinking of him, so she had given that man no more than a fleeting glance. The corner of Ethan Carter's lips lifted slightly. Both he and Naomi liked horseback riding. Naomi's horse was still being kept at the Carter family's ranch. At that moment, Lily Shen suddenly pushed the door open and walked in. She was wearing a long white silk gown that shimmered softly. The dress was a recreated version of the engagement gown Mrs. Carter had worn years ago. Mrs. Carter had come from an ordinary background, but because of a dramatic rescue by Mr. Carter, the two had been brought together. Even now, their story was still talked about by many people. What Ethan was most proud of in his life was the deep love between his parents. Perhaps it was precisely because of that, when he saved Lily, he developed those unusual feelings for her. And now, standing in front of him, Lily looked gentle and beautiful, just like the image of his mother in those old photographs. Ethan's heart softened all of a sudden. Although he had never truly thought about marriage with Lily, at least today he would give her a complete engagement ceremony. Ethan stood up and extended his hand to Lily. She smiled softly, lifted the hem of her dress, and stepped toward him. "You haven't come down yet. I was so worried." It's fine, let's go now. Have you finished handling things on Naomi's side? Ethan's gaze briefly swept over the sapphire brooch on his chest. It's settled. As for her, she's gentle enough. From now on, just let her stay in Hong Kong and not come back. A surge of joy instantly filled Lily's heart, yet she still looked worried on the surface. Will that really be okay? Naomi is used to being indulged. If she's alone out there, won't she feel wronged? Ethan's voice was cold and indifferent. Let her suffer a little, then she'll learn to behave. Lily said nothing more. She obediently looped her arm through his and walked downstairs with him. It was already 6 o'clock. Her engagement ceremony was about to begin. From today onward, she would no longer have to live a life of poverty. She would no longer have to stay in shabby houses among all kinds of people. No longer have to squeeze into a tiny room with her 2 younger sisters. Her entire family's fate would change because of her. Ethan Carter was her chance, her only chance to cross social classes. She would hold on to him tightly and never let go for the rest of her life. My wedding with Andrew Quinn was scheduled to take place in half a month. The timeline was tight, but fortunately, the Quinn family placed great importance on the marriage of their eldest son. They had begun preparations long ago, so despite how busy everything was, the process went very smoothly. Aunt Grace told me that when Andrew was young, he had once fallen seriously ill. After he recovered, the Quinn family took him to pay respects to the White Dragon King. They said he must marry in September, at the age of 27, for his future life to be smooth, healthy, and prosperous. The elders of the Quinn family firmly believed in these things. When Aunt Grace first mentioned the engagement over the phone, the Quinn family had already calculated my birth chart. My chart and Andrew's were an excellent match, a union destined by fate. That was why, after I agreed to the marriage, the entire Quinn family was overjoyed. I received many valuable meeting gifts. Among them, the most meaningful was a pair of jade bangles left behind by Andrew's biological mother. When Andrew gave me that gift, I felt both deeply moved and deeply sad, weighed down by guilt. The most appropriate gift I should give in return was the hairpin my mother had given my father. But it was still with Ethan. Perhaps Andrew noticed the sadness in my eyes. He led me into the garden. "Naomi, are you unhappy?" he asked, looking at me with concern. The jade bangle on my wrist emitted a deep green glow. Even though I didn't know much about precious items, I still understood how valuable it was. Ever since I was young, I wasn't used to others being good to me. When someone treated me with even a little kindness, I always wanted to repay it 10-fold, 100-fold. As I thought about all the gifts I had received, I could give Andrew Quinn something. But no matter what it was, it still felt unworthy. Guilt and unease had already taken root in my heart. When I caught sight of Andrew's gentle gaze, I didn't know why. When I decided to let go of Ethan Carter, I didn't cry when I left Beijing, the city where I had lived for 21 years. I didn't cry when Ethan refused to return the brooch to me. I still didn't cry. Yet at this very moment, tears suddenly slipped down my face. Andrew was clearly a little flustered. Although he was a true gentleman, the son of a distinguished family with impeccable upbringing, he was clearly inexperienced when it came to comforting a woman. When he used a handkerchief to wipe away my tears, his movements were noticeably awkward. I cried and laughed at the same time. "Andrew, you've wiped off all my makeup." "You were wearing makeup?" he asked. "It was that obvious, and you didn't notice?" Andrew replied seriously. "I thought you were just naturally that beautiful. I have to admit that sometimes I can be vain and shallow, but even that was enough to cheer me up." "Andrew, you're so good at comforting women. Does that mean you've had a lot of girlfriends? Do childhood crushes count?" I immediately widened my eyes. "So you didn't have a girlfriend after you grew up?" "If I said no, that would definitely be a lie," he said calmly. "When I was studying abroad in college, I dated a girl. After being together for a while, we realized we weren't compatible and broke up peacefully." "After that, did you ever like anyone else?" Andrew paused for a few seconds. "Yes, it's just that, unfortunately, she didn't like me." I suddenly understood a little. So that was how it was. Perhaps the woman he loved already belonged to someone else, and that was why he had locked his heart away and agreed to this marriage. For some reason, a flicker of jealousy rose in my chest, but I quickly talked myself out of it. That was fine too. At least I wouldn't feel so guilty. But that day, when I was leaving the Quinn family's home, Andrew said one thing to me. "Naomi, I hope you'll truly see me as your future husband. I know you're always independent and outstanding, but sometimes being relied on makes me very happy too." I felt my heart slowly begin to open. "Andrew, I will." I gave Andrew a set of cufflinks and a tie clip. They weren't particularly expensive, but they were something I had designed myself on a whim. The gift was pure in its intent, because when I designed it, it wasn't for Ethan. I was simply missing my parents and turned that longing into lines and patterns on paper. Preparations for my wedding began carefully, yet the Quinn family still hadn't announced the bride's identity. I had just transferred to a new school and didn't want to attract attention. Moreover, the matter between Ethan and me still wasn't fully resolved. But when Ethan decided to send me to Hong Kong to continue my studies, perhaps he had already intended never to let me return to Beijing. That was why, when the household staff packed my belongings, almost all of my things were boxed up and shipped to Hong Kong, including the gifts Ethan had given me over the past 10 years. Among them was a particularly expensive pink diamond ring. It was the gift Ethan had given me on my 18th birthday, something I had once treasured as a priceless possession. In the past, whenever I felt sad, just looking at that ring would immediately make me feel better. Gifts like that ring always seemed to carry more meaning than other pieces of jewelry. But now, I had gradually come to understand that when a person doesn't love you, or when the feelings they have for you are not sincere, even if there were a marriage contract between two people, it would still be no more substantial than air, let alone these external objects. As I placed each gift Ethan Carter had given me into a box, my heart felt strangely calm, without the slightest ripple. When the jewelry box was finally empty, I suddenly felt lighter than ever before. As I organized everything and prepared to ship it out, my phone suddenly received a few messages on WeChat. They were from the staff at the horse ranch. My horse was sick, unwilling to eat all day, looking listless. The moment I saw the photo, my eyes immediately reddened. The staff said the horse was probably missing me. I used to visit it every few days, but this time I hadn't shown up as scheduled. I asked about its condition. "Naomi," the staff said, "Mr. Carter is here as well. Do you want him to talk to you?" I froze for a moment, and then Ethan's voice came through clearly. "Naomi, when you raised this horse, what did you say back then? Have you forgotten?" Of course I hadn't forgotten. Every child in the Carter family had their own pet. But there was only one rule: they had to take responsibility and care for it until the end. They were not allowed to abandon it. "But wasn't it you who decided half a year ago that I should go study in Hong Kong?" I said. Ethan suddenly let out a cold laugh. "Since when have you ever listened to anyone? From childhood until now, haven't you always been good at making scenes and stirring up trouble? Your parents spoiled you so much that the moment you shed a single tear, they couldn't bear to let you leave. To be blunt, you never really cared about your horse that much." At that moment, Ethan's heart suddenly fell into turmoil. He abruptly realized a truth hidden in his own words. Naomi no longer cared about him either. Otherwise, she wouldn't have truly gone to Hong Kong. She wouldn't have been so indifferent when she learned of his engagement. She wouldn't have been absent from the engagement ceremony that day. And she wouldn't have asked for the hairpin she had given him to be returned. "I'll arrange time to go back and see it," I said. "If possible, I'll bring it to Hong Kong." "Are you planning to never return to Beijing for the rest of your life?" Ethan's voice suddenly turned angry. I simply lowered my head and smiled. "It's not impossible. Yes, I was about to get married in Hong Kong. Naturally, the center of my life would shift here in the future. But that wasn't something I needed to explain to Ethan. Naomi, you're still just as childish and stubborn as ever, haven't matured at all." Ethan's voice grew colder and colder. "You'd better not regret this." "Regret what?" I asked calmly. "Lily and I are already engaged. The wedding date is being scheduled. Naomi, don't tell me you don't understand. If I really marry Lily, you'll regret it." I smiled, light and at ease. "Ethan, I will sincerely bless the two of you. Truly." On the other end of the line, Ethan suddenly fell silent. I didn't wait for him to say anything more and gently hung up. When I was 16, I first fell in love, and from that moment on, I couldn't stop. I was stubborn and headstrong, no longer even willing to call him brother. Now 6 years had passed, and everything had finally returned to where it belonged. I don't hate him, and I don't blame him. After all those years together, I truly wish him happiness. I called Uncle Carter. After asking about his and Aunt's health, I gently brought up the matter of the hairpin. Uncle, back then I was still childish and caused quite a few embarrassing scenes. Thinking back now, I feel very regretful and ashamed. Ethan is already engaged. I think it's better not to let unnecessary misunderstandings arise. Uncle Carter sighed softly over the phone. Naomi, I've always loved you and truly cared for you. To be honest, I really wanted you to become my daughter-in-law. Over the past few days, Aunt Carter has cried every time she mentioned you. Uncle, I said softly, I do feel sad, but this sadness comes only from the genuine affection you and Aunt have shown me. Uncle, feelings can't be forced. I haven't really suffered any loss. It's all right. I've thought everything through and let it go. Uncle, please help me get the hairpin back. In a few days, you and Aunt Carter will be coming to Hong Kong to attend a wedding. When the time comes, please bring the hairpin to me personally. Yes, thank you, Uncle. After hanging up the phone, the staff from the luxury shipping company arrived. The boxes had already been carefully packed and they began loading them onto the truck. Before long, everything would be safely delivered back into Uncle Carter's hands. In a few days, when Uncle returned the sapphire hairpin to me, all those foolish memories of my youth would finally be sealed away for good. Yes, from then on, our lives would diverge onto two separate paths. He would return to Lily Shen, and I would go on to the Quinn family. That night, Ethan Carter got drunk once again at a gathering with friends. When he stepped out of the restroom, he heard Anna talking on the phone in the hallway. Ah, sweetheart, I'll fly to Hong Kong tomorrow. I promised I'd be your only bridesmaid. Of course, didn't you carefully choose the groomsmen? What, you picked 7 groomsmen for me? Oh my God, Naomi, I love you so much. Ethan stood in the long, empty corridor. Anna's cheerful voice seemed to linger in his ears, until in the end only one word remained, Naomi. He thought he must be drunk. Otherwise, how could he possibly hear something so ridiculous? Yes, he had to be drunk. Either that, or he missed Naomi so much that every name he heard sounded like hers. He staggered toward Anna. She had just ended the call and jumped slightly in surprise. Ethan? He stared intently into her eyes. I heard you say you're going to Hong Kong for a wedding, and I heard the name Naomi. The handsome face he usually wore with ease now looked slightly distorted. His eyes, once carefree, were rimmed red. He smiled, but the smile was cold and sharp. Don't tell me you're planning to attend Naomi's wedding. At first, Anna was startled by his expression, but she quickly recovered. How ironic. Over the years she had been upset and cried for Naomi countless times. And now, her heart felt incomparably light. So even the dignified eldest son of the Carter family could end up like this one day. Wasn't he fond of toying with other people's feelings? Didn't he like watching those who loved him suffer and hesitate because of him? Perhaps in the future, he would have countless chances to taste that same feeling. But Anna would not tell him the truth. Naomi had told her not to, and she would absolutely keep her word. She wasn't foolish enough to let Ethan find out and run to Hong Kong to cause trouble. That would be the happiest day of her best friend's life. She would never allow this unlucky man to ruin it. You misheard, Anna said calmly. I am going to Hong Kong for a wedding, and I'll be going with Naomi, but the one getting married is an old classmate of ours. Ethan clearly didn't believe her. I've never heard of Naomi having any close classmates in Hong Kong. Anna laughed softly. Ethan, have you ever actually cared about Naomi? Have you ever truly tried to understand her? Have you ever paid attention to her, thought about her feelings, tried putting yourself in her place? You've never done any of that. You don't know anything about her at all, and you don't deserve the many years of feelings she gave you. With that, Anna turned and walked away. Ethan stood there, watching her retreating figure, when a sudden, sharp pain pierced his chest. He didn't know why he felt so uncomfortable. No, it wasn't just discomfort. All of a sudden, An overwhelming urge rose within him. He wanted to see Naomi again. Just once would be enough. But the very next day, Ethan Carter received a large shipping crate delivered from Hong Kong. The reason it arrived so quickly was because Andrew Quinn had instructed the Quinn family's logistics company to arrange a private aircraft to transport the shipment directly to Beijing. At that time, I was busy preparing for the wedding rehearsal and knew nothing about any of this. But when Ethan opened those boxes, for some reason his hands began to tremble. At first, the items inside felt unfamiliar, yet little by little, memories surged back like a tidal wave, flooding his mind. The first Hermes bag he had ever given Naomi, the first pearl necklace, the keys to her first car, a box filled with gemstones of every color, and finally, the pink diamond ring. Ethan held that small pink box in his hand, and his vision suddenly blurred. "Ethan, when are you going to marry that girl you raised since childhood?" Back then, his friends used to tease him and Naomi like that all the time. At the time he had been young, reckless, and arrogant. Countless girls had pursued him, yet he paid attention to no one. Naomi at 18 had been beautiful, sweet like a ripe peach. Whenever he took her out, he didn't know how many people envied him. Secretly, he had felt endlessly proud because that beautiful girl liked only him. Back then, he had wanted to marry her. To be precise, he had long known that he would marry her one day. That was why he had given her the pink diamond ring. But when did he begin to feel tired of Naomi? And when did someone else manage to defeat the affection they had shared since childhood? Was it really because he no longer had feelings for her, or simply because he had been too certain that she would never leave him? Ethan clenched the ring tightly, and suddenly, absurdly, he broke down in tears. At that moment, I was busy with the final wedding rehearsal. Of course, I didn't know that Ethan had seen all the gifts he had given me over the past 10 years, especially the pink diamond ring I had once treasured like a priceless heirloom. I didn't know how he had reacted, and when Andrew Quinn kissed me for the first time during the rehearsal, I also didn't know that, because of that ring, Ethan had struck Lily Shen hard across the face. How ridiculous. On the day Lily knelt down to frame me, when I was pushed by Ethan and my knee slammed hard into the wall, none of us could have imagined that a day like this would come. But now, Ethan Carter and Lily Shen had both become people of no importance in my life. I no longer cared in the slightest. And when Uncle Carter brought the sapphire hairpin back to me, I also shared the good news with him and Aunt Carter, that I was about to get married. They were shocked, because the wedding they had come to Hong Kong to attend this time turned out to be the wedding of the Quinn family's eldest son. And the mysterious bride, whom even the Hong Kong media had failed to capture in a single photograph, turned out to be me. They were happy for me, yet tears of regret still fell, especially Aunt Carter. She held my hand tightly and refused to let go. "Naomi, I didn't want to cry on your happy day, but I truly can't accept this. It's my fault. I failed to raise my son properly, and he made one wrong step after another." Ethan had wanted to break up with Lily, but Lily refused to agree. Her entire family rushed to the Carter house to cause trouble, threatening to stay and never leave. They had already thrown caution to the wind, with nothing left to fear. When the two sides were arguing so fiercely it shook the heavens, Lily discovered she was pregnant. The Carter family couldn't force her to have an abortion. It seemed their marriage would have to be set after all. I reached out and embraced Aunt Carter. My eyes reddened as well. I thought of the first day I arrived at the Carter family home, crying every night for my parents. Aunt Carter held me in her arms, soothing me little by little. I remembered those carefree days, being loved and cherished as if I were their own daughter. In the end, I still cried. "Naomi, it's because the Carter family doesn't have the good fortune," Aunt Carter said as she wiped my tears. She sighed softly, yet her heart was filled with relief. The Quinn family is known for its excellent family values, and Andrew Quinn is one of the most outstanding figures in the business world in Hong Kong. "Naomi, you will definitely be happy." I knew that with a man as gentle and refined as Andrew, even if he didn't love me deeply, my married life would still be peaceful and happy. But I never expected that happiness would come far more intensely than I had imagined, many times over. When I pinned the sapphire hairpin onto Andrew's suit, He showed me a photograph. In the picture, I was holding a championship trophy, smiling brightly toward the stands, while Andrew stood beside me, smiling as he looked at me. That was the year I won the horse racing championship. The person who presented the award to me back then was Andrew himself. It was just that, at the time, my heart was filled only with Ethan. I had glanced at Andrew only once, knowing nothing more than that he was a young, handsome man. I never could have imagined that fate would later bind us together like this. I cried and laughed at the same time, pointing at the photo of the two of us like a child, unable to say a single word. Andrew wrapped his arms around me from behind. "Do you remember I once said I had someone I liked?" He gently touched the sapphire hairpin on his chest, then rested his chin on my shoulder, brushing against me softly. "Naomi, I once promised myself that when I finally received this sapphire hairpin, I would tell you that the person I love is you." When I was a young girl, I loved reading romance novels. There was a phrase often used to describe the male lead, a gentleman on the outside, a beast within. In truth, it was a backhanded compliment. I never imagined that someone like Andrew Quinn could also embody that phrase. On our wedding day, he was elegant and tall, his posture dignified, his entire presence radiating a noble purity like snow atop a mountain peak. But when night fell, when the groom's suit was removed, he became a wild beast. That night, I heard more tender words than I ever had before, heard my name whispered in intoxicating Cantonese again and again. For the first time, I was coaxed and guided into positions that made me blush with embarrassment. For the first time, I cried from discomfort, and also cried because the happiness was overwhelming. For the first time, I tasted the fierce, unrelenting joy of love that lasted all night without exhaustion. And on the second day of becoming a bride, I slept until noon. While I was still sound asleep in bed, Andrew had already finished his morning run, practiced tea preparation, read the newspapers, listened to the news, and completed a whole series of tasks. A few days after the wedding, one of the household staff laughed and said to me, "Madam, you wouldn't believe it." That day, the young master was happier than we've ever seen him. I've been with the Quinn family for so many years. This was the first time I ever saw the young master talk so much. That morning, he greeted everyone. Didn't even miss my little grandson. She lowered her voice conspiratorially and smiled. But I think the young master just wished he could carry a loudspeaker and announce to the whole world that he's married now, that he loves his bride very much. I felt both embarrassed and amused, and quickly found an excuse to slip away into the garden. From a distance, I saw Andrew Quinn's car pulling in through the gate. He got out, handed his briefcase and jacket to the household staff, and immediately turned to look in my direction. "Andrew." "Bookmark." I stood among the flowers, laughing as I jumped and waved at him. My horse had already been transferred to Hong Kong, not yesterday, but earlier. Andrew had personally arranged everything. It had been well cared for during the journey, and hadn't encountered any problems at all. Yesterday, when I saw it again, it happily ran circles around me. Andrew looked at me, smiling, and he smiled back in response. He gently brushed aside the lush green branches in front of him and walked toward me. When I saw him coming closer, I hurried toward him first. He stopped, shaking his head helplessly, but then opened his arms. When I threw myself into his embrace, he held me tightly. Only now did I truly understand what it felt like to be cherished, to be loved and indulged. I couldn't help but whisper softly, "Andrew, I love you."